In this episode, Mo and I had the absolute privilege to sit down with Vicki Speed. She's a wife, a mother, a partner, CEO of Blue Cancer Connect. And the Street Tales Network is proud and honored to partner with her and her charitable organization, Blue Cancer Connect. In this episode, she's going to talk about her life with her husband, who passed away from cancer, her experience, which I'm happy to say was excellent. I mean, as excellent as could be, having to deal with somebody who's going through that. It's emotional, it's honest, it's raw, but also we talk about what she is trying to do and how Blue Cancer Connect got started, where it's going. And it's not just a matter of collecting money to give the people who are suffering through cancer or dealing with the diagnosis of cancer. I wish we could do that. So does she. But it's also education, planning, preventing, and she's not doing it alone. She's partnering with other organizations. She doesn't try to begin to act like she has all the answers, but she sees a problem and she wants to address it. In her words, she describes cancer as an epidemic in law enforcement. And after speaking with her several times, but especially on this episode, I agree with her wholeheartedly. It's devastating what it could do to young men and women serving all over the country. And she asked some pretty hard questions that I didn't have answers to. And even now, still in law enforcement, if you were diagnosed with cancer, who do you call? Where do you go? Most agencies and organizations have nothing set up. They recognize it. They see it as a huge expense. And I don't think any agency could sit there and say, yeah, we're going to fund all of it, pay for all of it. They're not set up that way. There's preventable things that you could do, testing, getting in front of it, screenings. And she is advocating for all of that, on top of not just being there for people who are going through it, helping them, being available to them, but also educating and getting a game plan together. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I hope if you feel moved, donate. You can donate direct to Blue Cancer Connect. All the links will be in the description. We've also partnered with them through Living Blue Apparel, all of these Street Tales Network apparel. All proceeds go directly to Blue Cancer Connect, and it's a good way to just show support, not only for this podcast and what we're doing, but also Vicki Speed and Blue Cancer Connect. And I wish nothing but her success and want to see her grow. And there's big things coming for 2026. So starting the year off with a bang. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I promise you great things to come. Thank you so much. All right, Mo, we have Vicki Speed on with us today, and I am super pumped. She is the founder, CEO, one woman show kind of thing for Blue Cancer Connect. I know a lot of people help. I understand that, but it's your baby. You drive it. You drove it. And I don't want to jump ahead too far, but the conversation I had with you, I was like, I'm in. I'm a fan. I love what you're doing. And we partnered together with our apparel line, which is actually doing much better than, you start something new, you never know how it's going to go. But I'm super excited to get into that. But Vicki, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you being on.
Well, thank you guys. I think this is a great honor. Don't think it was an accident we met.
I agree. Again, another Jason Palomara connect. He's just that dude. I know he's got his job and his passion, but I don't know what you call those people. He connects people.
Yep.
He's a conduit. Those people are called.
Yeah.
He's a conduit.
Come on, Mo. Let's go. Mo got them braids in. Now she's just dropping all these big words. Let's see you, Mo. Awesome.
You're ridiculous.
I love it. Vicki,
I just want to say,
Mo, go.
I just want to tell you, Vicki, thank you. I did a lot of research to look in when Tyler was telling me about, hey, I want to have her on there. And I was looking at all the things that you are doing and all the ways that you are helping people at such critical times in their lives. And I just think it is such a powerful and inspiring thing to do, especially from what it was born out of. So I am just really humbled to have you on our show, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Vicki, we talked a little bit before we started, but I don't want to jump all the way, I guess, to now, because there's so much that leads us up to now, and not that we're going to have the time to cover every aspect, but can you just talk a little bit about where you grew up, how you grew up, kind of what got you in the direction that you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm born and raised in Southern California. I actually still live in the town I grew up in, crazy enough.
Oh,
We were going to leave, but my husband, when I met him, went against the rules. You don't work and live in the same place. He chose to do that. So we stayed here. So I went to high school here. They call us lifers. It's kind of nice though now that I lost my husband. I still live in a community where I know everybody. He worked here.
yeah.
So as far as being a widow, I think there's a lot of comfort in that. Obviously the station is not that far from me, so anything I need. I start actually crazy. I started working when I was 14. I've never
Damn.
not worked. I
Okay.
had those parents, you get a job, you don't get a car unless you have money.
Yeah.
So I've always worked. I went into construction management in my early 20s and
Oh,
stayed
wow.
in it. Kind of crazy. I had a bookkeeping background. I did it for, I'm going to age myself, 40 years. We'll bypass that one.
You look
And,
great.
but I
Yes.
thank you. But I think you just find something and it's a niche and you do really well at it and you just stick to it. So that was my career. And at age 36, my husband, we'd been married for 5, 6 years,
Okay.
had always had this, I'll say passion, because it is a dream and a passion to be a law enforcement officer. He was told at a young age that he would never make it. So somebody planted that seed. And this is the craziest part. Never told me. Never knew
Huh.
this.
So you didn't know that? Okay.
Never knew it. Showed up to my office on a Friday and said, I have to tell you something. And he never came by my office.
Okay.
I just took the test for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and I passed and I have to be back tomorrow. Okay. This is the first I'd heard of this.
This is
My
amazing.
family did work. My brother and my sister-in-laws were employed by the LA County Sheriff's Department. So I knew this, I knew this path already, but I was like, where did this come from? And he said, I've never told anybody because someone in my life told me I couldn't do it. So he's 36 years old, going into the academy, quit his job. We had just bought our first home. We had a little one at home.
Dang.
And so our journey began in law enforcement. And it was amazing. He was, I'm going to just say great things about him. He was a really good man
Yeah.
to begin with, but he actually was very close to being a signed country artist. And he had to decide, either we were going to move
Whoa.
to Nashville or he was going to
Okay.
become a cop.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Okay.
So he took
Hold on,
the
Vicki. Let me,
top.
if you don't mind.
So much.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on. That was a lot. Shame on me. We didn't actually talk about that part when I talked to you earlier. What was he doing before he got into law enforcement?
Okay, I'm going to give you a really short version of
Yep.
him that'll describe him. So my
Okay.
husband was adopted at birth. His adoptive dad, walked out on them when he was in second grade. They actually moved into hiding. It was his mom and his brother. Both boys were adopted, not biological. And I had a mother-in-law that ruled with, I say, an iron fist and a Bible. And she raised two boys on her own like that. No assistance. Put herself through college, raised these two boys to be great men. And
Yeah.
she had always encouraged my husband to, well, I'll say not listen to the outside world. He was an athlete. He was the basketball star, the football star, dated the cheerleader. He was that guy, but she encouraged him. He was a writer and he wrote poetry and he wrote music. And, when you're in high school, that is not cool. That's not a
Yeah.
cool thing to do, but he had an
Yeah.
English teacher and a mom that encouraged him. So he was a phenomenal singer on top of that. So as he grew older, he wrote a book, wrote poetry his whole life. It was therapy, sang, and just really blessed that, my mother-in-law raised him like that. So he was never
Yeah.
afraid of who he was, or, he was a 6'3" big man, wore the cowboy hat. But, I love that about her, that she raised him like that. So
Yeah.
I think that kind of carried over into applying for the department, that, don't listen to the outside noise. Even though somebody told you that at 20, it doesn't mean at 36 you can't do it. And so he had always worked for he did reconnect with his adoptive dad, who owned an excavating and crating company
Got it.
in the valley. He worked for him for up until he went into law enforcement. So he actually walked in, quit his job. They hired him as an off the streeter, no guarantee, but I knew he would do it. I just knew he
Yeah.
had that mindset. and he knew he would do it. And honestly, we've never looked back. He had an incredible career.
Yeah, I do want to get into that. Go ahead, Mo.
I'm listening to you talk about him and I'm thinking about what it takes to support all these things. And I had read a little bit when in your bio talking about him writing the book and him singing, but I didn't know he was country artists bound and all these things. That's an incredible journey. And I think being able to ride that wave with him takes a special person. That leads me back to, you said you were in construction management. That is not the typical female job. So that says a lot about, where you were even at 20 years old. You said that's where you started with that. That's not even something I think most high school girls are like, I want to be in construction management.
Great business, though. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah,
we need
great
it now.
Business.
Yeah.
How did you decide that path, which I think helped you to grow into this wife and woman that was able to do all these other amazing things?
Well, I think early on in our marriage, it's just, you're working to survive. I tell people this, when we met, it was, God, I'm going to date myself, in the 80s, $8 an hour was a lot of money back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, we lived in an apartment. We didn't have new cars. You work because you have bills to pay. And I really hadn't thought about like, oh my God, what is my dream job? Or I just knew like, God, I found this niche and I feel like I'm really good at it. And I guess I just kind of stuck in there, but there was a part in my marriage right after, I guess my son was probably in junior high. This is crazy. I had been hired by a stadium seating company to work for them. So they did like all the big football stadiums, basketball, and they had a women's motocross company, and I just couldn't not think, this is crazy.
This is awesome.
I ended up quitting. I begged them to let me go to their other company. His wife ran it. So now I'm traveling the U.S. in the professional motocross industry. Yeah. And I'm like, this is the craziest thing ever. And at this point, my husband had got off patrol. He had just been invited to his first special unit and he wanted to take it, but we knew we couldn't sustain this and have a child in high school.
Got it.
Yeah.
So my son was actually I'll say act up. He was starting to act up at school. I was not around at all. We traveled every weekend. I worked during the week. My husband was working. So that was the deciding factor for us. We both said we both can't have a career, and it was a no-brainer. His was the benefits and the great job, and he had the career. So I walked in and quit. I stayed home for about 6 months. And since I had always worked in construction, I started making some phone calls. Hey, I want to get back in the industry. I got picked up right away from a girl that I'd worked with for probably 20 years. And she now owned her own company and she hired me. And I actually stayed there until my husband passed, actually. So that's how I went back into it. But, we decided then. And I think as a wife, I know we don't always talk about this, but it is very tough to be married to a first responder. You have to be strong. You have to be willing to, hold the fort at home. And I knew without a doubt my husband was created for this job. And I never wanted him, not knowing he was going to die, I never wanted him to look back and say, God, I wish I had, or I wish I had been on that team, or I wish I had done this. And so, when he passed, I remember he said, God, I have no regrets. I have none. And I think as a wife, like I said, you don't think about that early in your marriage, but that was important to me. So I know we made all the right decisions together.
Yeah.
I just have to ask one thing. Sorry, Mo. 36 years old. You guys have been married. He comes in and goes, I'm going to be a cop. Were you just like, let's go? I mean, what went through your head?
Well,
having never talked about it before, that's still wild.
I'm gonna try to air some dirty family laundry here.
Go ahead. Okay.
My brother had been in this job by this point for, I don't know, 15, 18 years. And, there's just men and women that, divorce is a big thing. Affairs are a big thing. Training parties are a big thing. And that's what I knew.
Right.
So kind of backing up, my husband, up until he had gone into the academy, had a band. And that's when I said he was very close to being signed. He did have a band. He was gone all the time. I supported it, and again, a dream. If you have a dream, follow it. I never wanted him to say, because of you, I didn't do this. But with that, and you guys know this, it's, you're in a bar every weekend. You're coming home at 5, 6 in the morning. Kind of interesting what women do, whether you have a wedding band on or not.
They don't care.
These all true
Yeah, and
stories.
so
These
when
facts.
and I think this honestly saved our marriage and probably made us stronger, but when he had told me that he was going in and he made it, I just told him we have to have a conversation. I'm not going to live how we've been living with this whole ban going out, the drinking, the everything. And I'm also, if you're going to be like my brother, like you need to know I will leave.
Yeah.
I mean, I
You
will
said that?
support you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was
Awesome.
not going to raise my son with that. Absolutely not. So I told him it's decision time. You have to decide what this job is going to look like, and I'll support you. But if this is just going to continue and that's our path, it's not how I wanted my son to grow up. And, I will just say it. My husband just loved us enough. It wasn't even a flinch for him. And he said, I'm done. I'm done drinking. I'm done with the band. This is what I want to do. And crazy enough, in his 16 years on, it was never a problem.
Can I
Damn.
just comment on the depth of
Yeah.
strength that you have demonstrated throughout what you've told us in this up to this point? The fact that your husband surprises you and says, "Surprise, I want to be a cop," and there's just the depth of strength that it takes to say, "These are the ground rules. This is what
Yeah.
needs to happen," because those are conversations I think get missed in marriages very often,
Yeah.
and then that's where problems come up. But then there's the other side of, you had this career where you were traveling and doing all these things, and
Yeah.
it came down to, I've got to be home for my son and we've got to make a decision, and the depth of strength that it takes to say, you have this job, you are following a dream, and you're providing stability in the respect of, insurance and all these things. So I'm going to step back. So many people would allow ego and look at that as a weakness. And I just
Yeah.
see such a strength in that. So very
I got-
interesting.
Yeah.
I think you guys know in marriage, it is that give and take, and it's that, and it was crazy. I never felt like I gave anything up. I never
Well,
felt that way.
no.
And I think because the way my husband also treated me, he supported everything I did. I mean, most men would have complained. I mean, I was pretty much gone 7 days a week, like January through April. And I'm with men at the motocross track. My husband never said a word. We always trusted each other. It was never even a thing. I'm running around doing my thing. And yeah, I never felt like I had sacrificed for my family. And, you
Yeah.
ask yourself that as a woman.
Yeah.
Am I going to feel like I gave up this incredible career? And the craziest part is, it's the most money I'd ever made in my life. It was like a dream true. Yeah. And I'm traveling the US. And I thought, God, the money isn't even that big of a deal. And maybe that's
Yeah.
maturity. Maybe that's,
Yeah.
but we could have lost our son at that point. He was kind
Yeah.
of floundering, and, we weren't really home. We just thought he was good. And,
Yeah.
we get home later at night, and then you find out they're not so good. And so maybe it's just, we had years under our belt at this point. We'd probably been married 15 years.
Right.
So we had some years there. And so, yeah, I think you do it, but yeah, I get it. I talked to a lot of women. They wouldn't have done it, or that you would
Yeah.
have heard about it.
Of
Yeah,
course.
no, for
Of
sure.
course.
For sure.
I think
I
people
will say
miss
it's good to
that.
hear a dreamer, creative, writer, singer turned cop. Not that I'm not a singer, but I'm becoming some of those things after my life. And I always thought I was the odd one out, but I have met a lot of very interesting people who do the job, so to speak. So it's cool to hear that as well.
Yeah, and my husband was very blessed. So he figured he had given up singing, and he ended up being, I'll say, the voice for the department. So he sang at every political event, the national
Yeah, he
anthem.
did.
Yeah, and he was like, God, talk about win-win. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I didn't
Yeah.
have to give anything up. So,
That's
and like I
awesome.
said, writing was therapy. So he always wrote. He didn't have, the same amount of time, but it was important to him.
Wow, Vicki. One, that's awesome. That's a lot. Can you talk a little bit about his career and then leading up to, because again, I want to focus on your experience with his process and then we'll move into kind of why you started Blue Cancer Connect. Because I'm happy to hear how you were treated, but I'm also surprised because I've not seen that side of it. But we'll focus on
We'll
that
talk
for now.
about that.
Yeah.
So when my husband, he did the jails, which was out in Valencia, Magic Mountain out that way. And then when he went to patrol, it's kind of known where we live. It's called North County. You don't want to come here. You like an average station is 80 calls. Theirs are 800 a day.
Jesus.
So it's, but my husband wanted to learn, and that was a big thing for him. He said, I want to learn. I want to be a great cop. So he came out here and, patrol, you're on training for a year. So again, we're in that like, hey, you got to leave me alone for a year. It's like being in the academy. So we went through that and we were good. And very shortly after he finished patrol training, he was asked to be on one of the first specialized teams they had. And that's kind of a no-no. You don't have the years on. And they really wanted him. So we talked about it, and that was a big shift for us. He said, it's like 24/7, 365. We're going to be that team. How do you feel about it? And at this point, I was working like 5 minutes from home. And I said, my job is I can be mom, I can work, I can hold the fort. Like, if this is really what you want to do, I think you should do it. So that really started his incredible career. So he went from the burglary suppression team to he ended up making detective. Then it was, robberies, assaults, murders. It just kind of, and he loved what he did. Absolutely loved it.
Did you love it? Like watching him go through that
I'm going to be really honest.
Please.
At this point in his career, I resented the job. He was never home.
I was going to say,
I'll be completely honest. He was never home.
Yeah, because all the cool shit means you're gone a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and I know a lot of women understand this. I was going through this thing that my husband loved his job more than he loved me because he was never here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can tell you a lot of husbands say that the job always came first and sometimes they catch it before it is too late, but sometimes it's too late and they were like, it wasn't worth it. Anyway, so sorry to hear that.
Well, okay, there's two sides to this.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So now my son's 18 and he's leaving for college.
Okay.
And we take him to college. We come home and we're empty nesters and we look at each other and we don't know each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know this is very common. And about 6 months in, I just told him, I just don't think I want to do this anymore. I don't know you. I don't think I'm in love with you. You love your job so much. That's kind of your driving force. I mean, I'm basically living alone now. I go to work, I go to the gym, and I come home. That's, I'm in an empty house. And I knew my husband was the man that he was married forever. He was that guy, Divorce wasn't an option. So we went through a really kind of tough patch for about 6 months. And I still remember this. He said, hey, what if we just lay the weapons at the front door and just try and get along? Like, just instead of pulling the plug, what if we just try and talk to each other and not be upset with each other? And it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this or you do that. It was just, can we just start there? So it, calm things down. I said, yeah, I can do that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to be a little nicer.
Yeah.
So finally things kind of came to a head and I just told him, we have to decide because I'm not happy. I can tell you I don't love you. I'm not in love with you. You're a great dad. You've given me this great life, but I don't want to live like this anymore. Yeah. So we did what I guess I would probably recommend for a lot of people. We decided to sit down one day and just lay it out. And we thought, if we don't do this and we end up pulling the plug, then, we didn't give it a chance. And I didn't even know where it was going to go. Yeah. And it was probably about a 4-6 hour conversation and neither one of us held back. And it was awful. Nice. So we agreed.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
No, we agreed, you get to talk. I will say nothing, but then I get my turn.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing was the job. I hate your job. I feel like you love it more than me. You're not around. You don't care about me. I feel alone. You're just typical cop wife. Well, what's really interesting, I went first. Yeah. So now it's his turn. And he said, you've never respected my job. You don't ask me about it. You're not involved at all.
Interesting.
So I think it would be just as easy for me to say that you don't care about me.
Oh.
And you're like, oh, and the conversation's supposed to be, this is all your fault.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that really started our conversation. And like I said, we aired everything out, but then we talked about what would it look like to just get along? Not say we are divorcing or we're not, but to just try and get along. We were raising a son. We were still married, and then we said, what do you need from me?
Mm.
And I said, I need to feel important. I just need to feel important. I said, honestly, I felt more important going to work, working with 25 men, and he felt more important going to work, working with 10 women. That's kind of where you get it from. And I didn't want it to be like that. So he actually explained his job to me.
Oh.
And he said, here's what I need from you. I don't need you to be involved with it, but I need you to respect it.
Mm.
And we had never talked about that. And I thought, God, I really have never respected his career.
Mm.
I just kind of thought, he did this and I was good. I supported it, but no, I didn't respect it.
Mm.
So, you own all your shit. I'll say it. You own your shit. So what we agreed to, we would start dating, that I gave him free reign to work as much as he wanted to, but every Thursday at 5 p.m., we would meet at a restaurant and have dinner. And regardless of what his day looked like, he could go back to work or he could come home, it did whatever he had to do, but that we would start making time for each other. And so we started doing little things.
That's awesome.
And next thing I knew, God, our marriage was so, I didn't even know I could love him that much. I just had a whole new look, how he looked, how much I loved him. I loved his job. His hours didn't bother me. And I think we started communicating a lot better. I knew what he needed from me and he knew what I needed from him. And we just learned to find that middle ground, I guess. And there was no mudslinging or you did this. And we agreed, you can't bring the past up. We're not going to rehash this. We're going to put it behind us. And the crazy part is 4 years later, my husband was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
Okay, hold on.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to come back to that, but I got to say a couple things. I'm listening to you. I've always had these questions, and unfortunately your husband has passed, but you were already married and had a child when he decided to get into law enforcement. He was 36 is relatively older to start the career. I'll say that. And we do talk, Mo, help me with this. We do talk a lot about the negative aspects of the job, but with all the negative, there are strong positives. I still find it a noble profession, and it takes bravery to do it and do it well. But here you are, you were married to a country singer, writer, poet, and now he's a cop. And I'm sure we don't have to dig into all of it. I'm sure his personality changed a little bit. His demeanor probably changed a little bit. Good days and bad days affect you differently, and everybody brings it home at some point.
Yeah.
But I love hearing you say that you guys kind of reset and you started just dating again. And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
To me.
Well, I want to comment
instead of just throwing in the towel.
Yeah, it was real. Thursday night dinner changed our whole life.
That's incredible. Awesome. And people don't realize little switches like that. But
a little bit.
And I'm going to ask you, do you think in that moment where you felt so far apart, and he obviously did as well, that coming together in that moment where you guys were both very candid and vulnerable? I know you said it was awful and ugly, but it was almost like you ripped off the scab and let him kind of see that really soft center, and he did the same thing. Do you think that was more what drove the improvement?
I think with this, I'll say it, I think with first responders, the job is so crazy.
Yes.
You have to be careful with that communication because you just don't have time together. The job just doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
And I think for both of us, I knew I was married to a really good man. That wasn't even a thing. And I knew, I had to be honest. I was like, I'm going to leave him, but I'm never going to find anybody like this. And he's the father to my son. I mean, he is a good man. So, what flaws can you tolerate and what flaws we're talking flaws. But then I think for us, we had agreed, and I think this is huge in marriage. I needed to fix me, not
Yeah.
him. He needed to fix him and not me.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
think when we relinquished that and just started working on ourselves,
Yeah.
we both became very self-aware. Like I was very self-aware of his needs. I wasn't the wife. I'd never seen the inside of his station ever. I was not that wife
Okay.
that went there. I didn't hang out. I didn't go to parties. Was not my thing. But if they would have a warrant, I would show up with food. I would just pull in the parking lot, just drop food off. They were going to be there all night. And it was the little things like, hey, I love you and I care about your job. And I would just tell them, be safe. I wouldn't go in. Hey, be safe. I wanted to feed you guys. I'll see you tomorrow or the next day. I love you. And I'd leave. So you
Ah,
kind of learn it's just those little things. And I think it's
little.
just listening to each other.
That's
I can
huge.
tell you that's huge, especially if you can cook. Because some people bring the food and they're like, bro, why? Stop telling you I have to bring food over here. But I'm telling you, that's awesome. I think that, well, I don't think anyone's ever done that. Well, in my career,
Um,
come to feed you.
well, not
You know what I mean?
Frank would meet me for lunch, and I did go and take him food to make sure that he was, and I would
Of
pack
course
his
you did, because you
lunches
can
too.
cook, Mo. Mo could throw down. We don't ever talk about it, but anyway, no, I'm sorry that we off track. That's my fault.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mo. I'm
I
sorry.
think people sometimes don't realize that especially in this first responder, you hit the nail on the head when you said it impacts our ability to be able to communicate, not just because of time. That's a huge factor because it does eat that up, but the job itself sometimes, because you do talk to people all day,
Mhm.
depending on what role you're in, you come home and they're talked out. And so you don't realize that you're talked out, but your spouse is desperately wanting you to talk to them and spend those times with them. And those little turns, it doesn't have to be a complete revolution, just a little, a quarter turn sometimes can make such a big deal, like dropping off food and having Thursday night dinners. And
Yeah.
it shows that step of I'm prioritizing my marriage to you.
Yeah. No,
Well,
that's
I
awesome.
think this is a big thing I need to share with you guys is one of the things my husband had said to me was, we're very good at honey-do lists. It's kind of a
Mm.
big thing for women. And he said, you literally make me feel like shit because you leave these lists and I can't even wrap my head around them. And you drop them on me the minute I walk in the door.
Mm.
And, things we don't think of because a wife, it's like,
Yeah.
well, if I write it down, what is the big deal? Just like get it done. So this is so crazy. So he worked Monday through Thursday, could be home Friday morning, just Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He was always off. So we had a deal. I got off Friday at noon and he was home. There were no honey-do lists. I left none. That was his time. And
Yeah.
then when I got off work, I started doing some of the errands, which didn't kill me, like dry cleaning and running by the grocery store. I stopped asking him to do that. And the funniest thing is just getting off of him and giving him that time to, I guess, just kind of take that deep breath and, like, okay, I can breathe. I'm home. I woke up to quiet. I've had my 3 hours to 4 hours to myself. He rode his bike or he ran. Next thing I knew, Fridays, he would call me at work and go, what do you want me to do? Like, do you need things done? Do you need, I'd be like, no, it's okay. He's like, no, I feel great. Do you want me to get the dry cleaning? Do you want me to go to the grocery store? And you realize, you get off of them and you stop with those, there's a lot of this. You stop with
Yeah.
just the honey-do list and you kind of respect that they do need that time to come home and decompress. And it's
Yeah.
really a small amount of time. And that changed our whole life.
It's amazing.
I give credit to Doug White because he's the one that dropped it on me. I don't know if it's his original, but he was like, everyone assumes marriages are 50-50. And he goes, hopefully over the totality of time that you're together, it works out that way. But day to day, it's not that way. He goes, sometimes it's 99-1. Sometimes you need your partner more than you're giving. And hopefully it's not every day. That's a different story, but that give and take on a day to day. So that's what I'm hearing from you saying, like, look, Friday, he just needed a little time.
Yeah.
But then once he kind of got into the rhythm, he's like, all right, I mean, it's still his home. That's what I
Yeah.
never understood. It's both of your home, right? So it's like, of course you should want to take care of it and do the things,
Yeah,
right?
but I would leave the list when I left Friday morning, and if it wasn't done when I got home at noon, I was pissed.
I see.
Oh,
Okay.
And
yeah.
he's just
So-
now getting his day started because he's been running or he's been in his partner's house. And so you have
Yeah.
that resentment. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
great. So you can go screw around. I'm at work and nothing's done. I mean, that was kind
Yeah.
of what it was. And it really did change our life. And like I said, I think it's just that respect. You learn to respect
Yeah.
each other, your boundaries. I learned, what those poke points, I learned what they
Mm,
were, so I didn't do them. I stayed
Yeah.
away from them. And yeah,
that's awesome.
our marriage was absolutely unbelievable. Thank God.
I want to
Yeah.
get to his diagnosis, but I got to say, 15 years of marriage and you're still learning each other. I love it.
Yeah.
That means it's still exciting, in my opinion. I mean, that's me looking on the outside looking in. I
Yeah.
think that's still great.
It
Mo?
is.
So I think that, you kind of touched on it. You said then 4 years later he was diagnosed. What led up to him finding out? Was he feeling well? What led us to that point?
Well, there's a lot of hindsight in this, him getting diagnosed, but
Right.
he was training. He had just turned 50. He'd been a runner his whole life. And
Right.
he had a really rough fall winter training. And we were laughing, oh my God, I'm 50. The job's kicking my butt.
Yeah.
This is probably going to be my last year. And never thought anything of it. And there was actually a day I had to go pick him up. I've
Oh,
never,
Oh,
like,
wow.
my husband is an athlete. And I thought,
right.
God, that's weird. So he's like, Vic, God, this 50, this is bullshit. I don't know what's going on. We laugh. So he went to Baker to Vegas in March of 2016. My son went with him. It was like a father-son trip. And he texted me and he said, I just finished my leg. I felt like I was going to die and I almost didn't make it to the finish line, but I finished. Still didn't think anything of it.
Right.
Yeah. You
So
thinking I'm 50 and that's what it
yeah,
is.
I'm
Yeah.
like, whatever. My son's teasing him, oh, Dad, you sucked at training. You're getting old. They go have this
Oh,
incredible
no.
dinner together. Great weekend. Come home. And now we're in probably the first week in April. And he had been telling me like, hey, I'm going to the bathroom a lot at night. Things are weird. I'll be, too much information here, but it was affecting our relationship. And he was just like, hey, there's something going on. And you're like, okay, whatever. I would ask him, are you okay? I'm fine. All right. Not asking again. I hear you.
Right.
So one day he tells me, God bless you guys. The detectives went on WebMD with him and they diagnosed him.
Oh,
Jeez.
God.
So yeah, it was prostate, but it was from being 50 and he already knew what medication he needed. Okay. I mean, I'm not a guy, so I have no clue what's going on. Okay.
Do what you
Well,
got to do.
yeah,
So
it's
I just
not
want
getting
to.
better, but
We
now
had
he's up all
detectives
night.
to diagnose us.
Oh God, it's just
Come on, Mo.
typical.
You know how it is.
I
Yeah,
know.
you know how it
Okay.
is, Mo.
Very well.
That's how
Well,
guys
now
are.
he's up all night and he's keeping me up.
Right.
So I go and I start sleeping in the other room and I'm like, what is going on with you? And he said, I'm fine. Okay. So I still
Yeah.
remember it. It was a Friday, came by my office, never comes by my office,
Oh no.
sits down in the chair and shuts my door.
Uh-oh.
I said, what is going on? He said, I don't feel good. Okay, what does that mean? And he was completely jaundiced and his eyes were gray. I said,
Oh,
what does that mean? I don't feel good. And he said, there's something really wrong and I don't know what it is.
yeah.
Okay. So, growing up here, one of my childhood girlfriends is a PA, text her, hey, Mitch isn't feeling good, something pretty serious. She says, hey, send him over, tell him I'm going to order labs right now. Tell him to go over and do them. And then I'll call you guys, you can come in next week. I said, okay. Well, he took off of work. He said, I don't think I'm going to go to work next week. He said, Vic, I don't feel good. I said, yeah, okay, whatever. He gets his labs. We go through the weekend. I go back to work and we have an appointment the following Friday. We go in and this is our general practitioner and my girlfriend's there and just everyone's got this look. Can't
Mm.
explain it.
People can tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I realize now my husband already knew. And they asked me to leave the room. Leave the room, come back in. And I look at my husband. I said, what is going on? And Stephanie won't even look at me.
Right.
And he said, oh, I think I have to go to City of Hope. Well, I don't know what the City of Hope is.
Right.
I said, okay, what does that mean? And he said, well, I don't know. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Let's just wait and find out. Okay. So we get done and Stephanie won't look at me. And I'm like, Steph, what is going on? And she said, Vicki, it's okay. I got Mitch an appointment in City of Hope. We're just going to see what's going on. His labs are a little off. Okay. We're walking out the doctor door and my husband grabs my hand and he says, look at me. And I look at him and he said, we're not going to ask why. So whatever happens, we're in this. Okay. We get in the car and we go home. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So he didn't feel well and he didn't look well. So I just left him alone and he was kind of on the couch all weekend. And I go back to work. We have an appointment at the City of Hope and we go in like a week later. And they're like, Mr. Speed, we've seen all your test results. We have some concerns. We need to do a biopsy. Okay. Schedule it, go back in. They do the biopsy. And I'm like, he doesn't feel good. Like, I don't want to say it's not that big of a deal, but
Yeah.
I'm not that worst case scenario person. I remember the phone call like it was yesterday. It's Memorial Weekend. And the doctor calls and we come back actually to this office. Mitch has him on speaker and I can tell you verbatim, Mr. Speed, we are very sorry to tell you all 12 tissue samples came back positive. You have a very aggressive stage 4 cancer and we need to get you in right away to start treatment. I heard nothing else after that. They kept talking. We had company and our son was out of town.
Wow.
So it was just a gut punch. I don't know what else to say. My whole world stopped in that phone call. Everything stopped. And I looked at him. I didn't even honestly know what to say to him. And I said, are you okay? And he said, we're going to entertain our company. We're not going to say anything. And we're going to wait till Brody gets home and we're going to tell him first. I said, okay. So you can imagine, you're out there. Oh, so you guys, do you want a glass of wine? Yeah, it was awful. It was so
better man than me. I'd have been crawled up in the closet. But
I couldn't even process what just happened.
Yeah.
We went to bed that night. We didn't say anything. The next day we kind of talked about it and I just, are you okay? And he said, hey, we're going to face this together. And, Vic, I'm tough. I'm built for this. I'm going to beat it. Okay. Yeah. And so our journey began and it was 26 months of an absolute roller coaster.
Yeah. Wow.
He never made it back to work. He had every intention, but it just never worked out. He did really great at first. We thought like, oh my God, he's going to beat it. He did great with chemo. The numbers look good. And every time he would get ready to go back to work, he would always end up in the hospital. So finally we kind of laughed and we're like, okay, obviously you're not meant to go back to work.
Yeah.
So we were just on this journey and we had agreed that we would not let death take over our home. We would not let cancer rule our home and we were in it together. And this is where I go back to thank God our marriage was so solid. Like we were in this together.
Yeah.
And, I knew what could happen. I knew the outcome could not be so well, but we just didn't live in that.
Yeah.
So we took it one day at a time and I worked. I worked all the way up until about 3 months before he passed. And that, whole nother story, that we've talked about it, Tyler, the agency, his partners, we'll get into that later. But yeah, he ended up passing away and that was not what I thought was going to happen. I didn't think at 53 I would lose my husband and be on my own.
Yeah.
And, so that's grief is a whole nother thing in itself.
Was that your first kind of, not exposure, but was that like your first kind of wading into the world of what cancer does to people, how it affects family? Like everyone knows cancer exists. We got the concept, but like, until you see it. And again, I've never lived through it, but I've seen it on other people, friends, acquaintances, coworkers. Was that like kind of the first time you'd experienced that?
Yeah, we didn't know anybody with cancer.
Oh,
but when I was in high school, my stepdad who raised me had heart issues and he died my senior year of high school. I was home with him. My brother and I were. And I look back and I know it sounds crazy, but I think God really prepared me to be a caregiver. and really it
Yeah.
prepared me. Like I had a strength that I can't explain, but I do go back to that. My mom
Yeah.
had to work, so she relied on me and my brother to take care of my dad during the day. And yeah, I
Right.
grew up pretty quick, but that's
Yeah.
what family does. That's what you do. But I've talked to my mom about it. I said, wow, I never knew, what I was being prepared for. But God, just going through that and seeing my dad die in front of me and, being in and out of the hospital, God, did it strengthen me for this.
Right.
Damn. Go ahead, Mo.
No, I was just, it's incredible to hear the sequence of events as
Yeah.
to how it happened. And very similarly, we've talked to some other people who have experienced cancer, and the common thread is how that time is such a roller coaster. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's
Yeah.
down. And I think that's got to be something that's just really, it's gut wrenching, for lack of better terms, because you get your hopes up. Every time they go up, you
Yeah.
go up too. So you talk about your strength. How were you able to maintain that? Because your insides were probably going crazy. And did you shield that from him, or did you show him all of it?
Well, it's kind of interesting back to what, this first responder job. So what does that really look like? My husband was my protector. Anywhere
Yeah.
we went, he had a gun on him. As a wife, you don't even pay attention to your surroundings because they've got you. He was my protector. He was his family's protector.
Mhm.
And the minute he was diagnosed, he went into the hospital immediately because he'd gone into kidney failure. I realized in that moment, our our scripts had flipped. I was now
Wow.
his protector.
Yeah.
And marriage started making sense. Like you
Mm,
think about your vows and you think about, because it's not all pretty. It's,
no.
when you're, have no money and you're going to lose your house and, shit's getting real. And that is really what marriage is. And we had not gone through sickness together. We'd gone through some really tough things together. But I remember looking at him and thinking, wow, it's my turn. It's
Yeah.
Mm.
my turn to take care of him. And as this thing progressed and, talking about cancer, the roller coaster is, and I tell people this is the best way to describe it. You can get up together in the morning and go eat breakfast and they feel amazing.
Yeah.
And at 12, you're calling an ambulance because everything has gone to shit. Like that's what cancer does. And every day is like that. You just don't know. So you take the good. And when they feel great, you embrace that because things can turn really quick. But yeah, in that 26 months, as things had progressed, and I saw what it did to my husband mentally, physically, emotionally, just really broke him down. It's just crazy how that whole role turns. And I was fiercely, fiercely protective of my husband. I knew like it was a big thing when we were at the hospitals here. Those are all the people my husband had arrested. So
Mm,
I kind of have this role. Mitch
Yeah.
wasn't strong enough to do anything. And
Yeah.
he
right.
just has that face and we have that name like Speed. It's not really, you're not going to forget that name.
Yeah.
I had realized really early on, like, oh crap, we're like not in a good situation. So I told the station, I didn't ask. I told them, you guys are going to be here with us. My husband cannot protect himself. Like we're not in a good situation. And
Right.
so we had a rule that anytime he went to the ER, we were escorted. And yeah, it's crazy what it does to you. I knew I was made like that. You really don't want to have to do it. But
Right.
yeah, it was kind of crazy. I was now running the home. I was responsible for everything, his medical treatment, his doctor's appointments, his medications,
Yeah.
taking on workers' comp. I mean, I took everything on. And it's just funny when you love someone, you don't care. You would do
Yeah.
anything for them. So
Yeah.
we
For
had
sure.
an agreement. His only job was to fight cancer. That's the only thing he had to do.
I think this is a good time to transition because again, you saying like his agency escorted him. I can tell you right now, I don't know many agencies that would just do that. But
Nope.
can you talk about your experience on for you, and then I'd like to transition into kind of what started Blue Cancer Connect. But I love your story. Again, I hate the situation, but the support that you had and still have.
Right.
Yeah, very blessed. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
I always start off by saying I'm not a bitter wife and I don't hate our agency or, I don't hate law enforcement. So my husband was diagnosed. He informed his sergeant. At this point, he's in the detective bureau. It was extremely upsetting to his partners. We knew it would be. And, they were like, hey, we want to help. So Mitch was diagnosed in May. He was in the hospital in June. I was working. I would stop by and visit him at the hospital. They never left him. Like there were
Awesome.
at least 5 guys there all the time. So I was just going back and forth to work. And he gets out of the hospital. Now he's going to start chemo. And they tell me, Vicki, we want to take him. It's every Friday. I said, well, it's okay. I'm off at noon. I'll just, work like longer days and take Fridays off. They're like, no, we want to take him. Mitch, are you okay with this? And he's still feeling really good. He said, yeah, honestly, I'm good with it. Like, I want us to keep a normal life. I want you to have a normal life. Our
Mm.
son was in college. My husband made him promise he would not quit. So
Oh,
we had an agreement. We were going to run our home as normal as possible. So I
that's
let them
awesome.
take him. I never went to chemo. I did not go to one of them. I did go to the doctor's appointments. Those were mine. But now we're in September and they do this huge luau surprise fundraiser. We walk in, we're crying. There's probably 1,000 people there. But we were okay though. Like financially, we were okay. We didn't really know what lied ahead. And so you're kind of, I'll say embarrassed. I think my husband was a little embarrassed. But, we had agreed. I said, Mitch, you have to let them love you and you have to
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
them support you. This is
Yeah.
just, it's all you guys know to do. That's like,
Right.
that's your love to your
Yeah.
brothers and sisters.
True.
So, I'll tell you, so we got $12,000 and we just put it in the bank. We were like, wow, we don't need it. We're kind of embarrassed, but we'll put it away. And so that's September. Now we get through the end of the year. Things are really looking up. His numbers are looking good. Chemo went really well. Going to the doctor. He's getting treatment every like 28 days. Now we get into the new year and now the roller coaster is definitely hit. I mean, this roller coaster never stopped come 2017.
Yeah.
So we would, and I probably should have showed you guys the pictures. We would show up to the City of Hope here in the Antelope Valley, and we have pictures. There's the whole parking lot is black and whites. There's 25
Wow.
at least uniformed deputies, and they prayed with us before we went into every single appointment.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I
That
mean,
is
amazing.
I don't mean
amazing.
little numbers. And we've had 4 a.m. surgeries. We would walk up, and there would be 10 guys there.
It's
Hey,
awesome.
Speed,
That's
we just came
huge.
to pray with you before you went in, when he was in the hospital. I mean, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So this is probably the one thing I remember the most. We're in 2018 now, and I didn't know, but I think looking back, I knew. December of 17, I think my husband knew the end was coming. I think he knew that was our last Christmas. It just, you get that vibe. You get that like Christmas was over the top. I got a new wedding ring. I was like, what is he doing? And I thought, just let him. This is tough on him. Just let him do whatever. So now we're in January and they tell us that his numbers are tripling and we're kind of running out of options. So, okay, we probably need to let everybody know things are, we're on a pretty tough journey here. So now we're in we're calling 911 kind of regularly. Things just are not good. We're on this roller coaster. And mind you, I'm still working.
Yeah.
So every time, this is so crazy. And I love these guys. They would call 911. Well, one of the guys, and I don't know how, would always hear it. And it would just turn into some like everyone's rolling code. And it would be like hey, he had chest pains and they would, no, tell him that he's not breathing. We need to get there sooner. And I didn't know all this till later. But so I would be at work and he would be like, hey, Vic, I don't feel good. I just called 911. And, I'd run out the door and fly home and I'd get here and it's like, there's just deputies everywhere and black and whites. And, I'm like, oh my God, you guys.
Yeah.
So this is all I knew. And I was deeply, deeply grateful. But he
Right.
went into the hospital in May of 2018 and we knew it was bad. We couldn't control the pain anymore. And we did have to call 911. And they let me ride in the ambulance and they closed all the intersections to get my husband to the hospital. And I'd never experienced this before.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the front seat. I think I was just in shock because I knew things were bad.
Yeah.
And I'm watching all this and I'm thinking, why are they closing the intersections? Like my husband's he's not going to die right now. And we get there and we go in and you know this. Hey, this is one of ours. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
And now, everyone's running to him. And I'm like, this is crazy. So he gets admitted. And I did not know at the time there's a parolee around the corner and I think we're in critical care. So they closed the floor down. And now, mind you, I'm not paying attention to anything. My husband's in pretty bad shape. I'm actually
Right.
living at the hospital now, and we're not really allowing visitors. He's just the pain is too much.
Mhm.
So I would walk out the door and it's like the hallway's locked down and there's 3 deputies there and people were calling me, "Hey, I can't get up to the floor. Like what's going on?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Well, they had locked it down and you had to have a password to get up. And I didn't realize it was they were protecting him. And he was in for a week or maybe even 10 days and this went on the whole time.
Wow.
So, people were kind of coming and going, and I don't remember a lot. Every couple days I'd run home, take a shower, grab some clothes, and go back. And so they're going to discharge him from the hospital, and that turned into a major ordeal. That's where we started hospice. And I can tell you guys, I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was because they told me the pain meds were at such like huge doses and so many of them, we couldn't get them from a pharmacy. So it was basically like, hey, it's palliative care, but it's considered hospice. So I'm like, oh, we got this, dumb me. And we load my husband up, and now he's in a wheelchair. And we go downstairs, and the whole parking lot is just black and whites.
Yeah.
And I'm
Wow.
like, oh my God, you guys. I love you guys. So we're loading him up, and just a million things are going through my head now. Like, God, what does this look like? He's in a wheelchair. Oh my God, I need to do this. I need to do that. And my head's just spinning. And
Right.
I come around the corner from my house. My whole street's lined with black and whites. I'm like, and my husband's crying now. He's very emotional.
Oh,
He's in a very weak state. He's crying.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, babe, I don't even know what to say. Well, we did not know 3 days later he would lose complete use of everything from the waist down. So he was pretty weak. And they got him out of the car, carried him in the house, and I was so grateful at this point because I knew this was becoming a little bit more than I could do on my own.
Yeah.
right.
So we get home, and 3 days later, he's paralyzed from the waist down. And he's
Wow.
in our spare bedroom. And I remember telling myself, like, I'm not going to let my husband live like this. He's
Yeah.
in a bedroom with 4 walls, and he's bedridden. He's paralyzed, completely dependent on me. So
Right.
I actually called my girlfriend, who's an interior designer, and I said, I don't know how to redo my house right now, but I need to move him to the front room. Like, I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
not going to have my husband live like this.
Yeah.
Right.
So she, God bless her, literally goes shopping, leaves her job, goes shopping. She walks in with there's a new couch, a new rug, a new TV, new pictures for the wall, and she had called the station, and for his sergeant and 3 of his partners were here moving all the furniture. Like literally my home house is like a 4-hour DIY going on.
That.
So, yeah, my husband's really emotional. He's like, it's bad. We're in a
Yeah.
bad place. And they moved him. We moved him out I moved my dining room out. We moved the bed out there. We moved him out there. It was, set up. So anyone that came to our home, he was part of everything.
Yeah.
It just, I'm so grateful we did that. And I would recommend that
Yeah.
to anybody. And I didn't realize we were that close to the end. I didn't. And I think it went back to us saying, hey, we're in the fight until the end. And
Right.
I just I didn't want people to hear me go, oh my God, I think my husband's dying. I'm like, it's like he's got cancer. Yeah, it's not good. So we moved him, and that was probably the first week of June. And our house was a constant. Everybody was here. And this whole 26 months, we had food coming. They fixed my car. They mowed my lawns. They did all the maintenance on my house. We couldn't pay for anything. I mean, if I would have let them make my mortgage payment, they would have. And I was like, you
Yeah.
guys, we have a job. Like we're okay. We're good.
Yeah.
They were at everything. It didn't matter what it was. And July 7th, he passed at 9:35 p.m. And mind you, it was myself, my son, Stephanie, our PA, was here with him, and maybe one other person. And we had stopped visitation about 2 weeks prior. He didn't want people to see him like this. And
Yeah.
I agreed. And by this time now he's in a coma. And so we just stopped visitations. So I didn't think anybody really knew what was going on. We had stopped the deputies from coming over. And he passes at 9:35. I call the coroner's office, and at 11:30 they come to get him. And there's, I think, three of his best friend partners are here. I had texted him. And we walk outside. It's almost midnight, and my entire street is black and whites.
Mm.
And I'm probably going to get emotional. And his partners are lined up on our sidewalks saluting him. And I'd never experienced anything like this before. And it's just something you'll never forget. I mean, that just screams love. You talk the brotherhood, so they escorted his body to the funeral home. And I can honestly tell you, since July 7th, 2018, I have not been left.
Oh, wow.
You hear that, Mo? They still check in on her. They still check in on her.
I'm listening to her story, and it got me. It got me in the feels quite a bit. But that is unfortunately fortunate, because that's the way I think it should be done.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't think that is the norm. I think that is such a beautiful thing that he was associated with a department that took that time for someone who gave so much. But quite often, unless it's, and even within the line of duty deaths, I have seen it's lots of pomp and circumstance, and as soon as it's done, it's done. Everybody packs up, they roll up their stuff, and they go home, and that family is left to pick up all the pieces. So what a beautiful experience that I am so grateful for you to have had.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a reason it happened like this. And I think Tyler and I have talked about that. It leads into why and what I do.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me why and what led you into Blue Cancer Connect, because that's huge. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tyler.
I'm sorry. Just because I want to do that, but could you just talk about what does Blue Cancer Connect do? And then we'll talk about how it got started. Because I kind of want to, there's so much more than just, donate money, give to people who need it. It's not that, in my opinion, but could you just talk about kind of what Blue Cancer Connect is doing? And then we'll talk about how it got started, and then we'll talk about where it's going. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to do this backwards. So there is a lot going on right now.
I know, but I just want to.
We have a lot of moving pieces right now.
Yes.
So we are 2.5 years into this. Gosh, we are in the thousands of sworn that we've helped. And the idea I had was to help my husband's department. That was the idea that I had, giving back to the men and women who took care of my family and took care of my husband. And I know, Tyler, you understand this. My husband died with peace because he knew his partners would take care of me and our son.
Yeah.
That's a peace that he died with. And you don't ever forget that. You don't ever forget the gratitude of that. So I thought I could help. I had done this. I think we figured it out really well on our own. Workers' comp, attorneys, the settlements, department benefits, like the really crappy stuff, medical bills.
Yep.
So I thought, wow, maybe I can help somebody. So my husband passes, and we were just talking about this today. I went through a really tough couple years of, I was drinking a lot, and I was not prepared for grief. I was not prepared to lose my husband. And I know everyone says, oh, but you knew he was going to die, and you had time, and you had,
no,
I'm I'm sorry, but I have not experienced that. My whole world, the rug had been lifted out from underneath me, and I got really lost. I don't want to say I made bad choices. I didn't go back to work for a year. It was something I had promised myself. But my son was lost. He was not making the greatest choices. I'm trying to come out of grief. I'm trying to run a home. And literally you wake up and go, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like, I have no husband. I don't have a job. I don't, what am I doing? So I just started kind of bouncing around and, hanging out with my friends. And about year 3, I had spoke about marriage to agencies, And I really thought that's what I was going to do. I thought, okay, I'll talk about marriage and I think I can help people. We did a pretty good job. And when you're doing something you're not supposed to do, it just will never get off the ground.
That is
Ever.
That's
very
true.
true.
We would have a door open and then we'd have 16 slam. And I mean, we couldn't get this off the ground to save our life.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, it's really weird. I feel like Mitch's partners support me. They'd show up to stuff. And yeah, we were absolutely failing. So 2022, I had started getting involved with our department and more like on the mental health wellness side.
Okay.
I think what happened is my husband was like dad to everybody. He was the guy you went to for marriage advice it didn't matter what it was. Mitch was that guy.
Yep.
So I think it carried over to me like, okay, Mitch isn't here. And I was close, outside of work to most of them. So it's like, I'll go to Vicki's house and talk to her. They went through stuff. I'm going to talk to her. I have a drinking problem or whatever's going. I'm getting divorced. So I say being mom, I was mom and I thought, I should just keep helping them. Like, I should just figure this out. So I had an organization reach out in 22 and they'd asked me, do you want to get peer certified and do work with us? I thought, okay, yeah, that's really cool. And plus now I have a purpose. I'm not just running the streets and, I'm still not
Yeah.
working. I thought, well, that's
Yeah.
really cool. Well, I went to this week training and it absolutely changed my life, because you are stripped of a lot of things. Like it's not just
Yeah.
you go and get trained. And I think it opened my eyes to a lot of things about myself and what I really wanted to do and how much I really loved the people that were there for my husband. So I came home and I really thought that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do peer. I'm going to go out in the world and figure out, who needs help. And I'm going to be Mitch's wife and, be stoic. And so we're in 22, about 2 months later. And you guys, this is crazy. I don't share this a lot. I'm a girl of faith. So is my husband.
Yes.
I get woke up in the middle of the night and I
Mm.
hear this voice that tells me, write this down. And it's Blue Cancer Connect. And I go back to bed and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, did I dream? So I go out on the counter and there's a sticky and it says Blue Cancer Connect. I have no idea what this means.
Okay.
And I'm like, God, that's weird. I put it away somewhere. I thought, well, that's really weird. Okay, whatever. This is September. I knew I wanted to help with cancer, but I'd also asked God to please not put me in this because I couldn't deal with the death
Yeah.
and the really
Yeah.
ugly side of it. And I was afraid it would break
Right.
me.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, well, God,
Yeah.
I'll do it, but I just want to do this much. Like I'll help him get a doctor's appointment or something. And then I
Yeah.
can be done. So this is now it's just tugging on me every day. And I thought, oh, God, I know I need to do something, but God, what if I have to go to a funeral? I mean, what am I going to do? So 2022, I get a call in November and it's 2 lieutenants who were my husband's partners earlier in his career. Vicki, we just had one of our deputies diagnosed. Would you help us raise money? Hey, if it's too much, you can say no. These are the men that were helping my family. Oh my God, you
Right.
guys know I'm all in. What do you need? And I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm great at raising money. That's my thing. So we do all this and they're like, hey, we're going to do a drive-by at his house. You should come with us. He doesn't live that far from me. I go and this deputy walks out. Now, mind you, this is my first actual cancer anything. He walks out and he probably weighs 100 pounds and he's 27 years old and he's
Oh.
standing there with his mom and dad and he has stage 4 cancer and I absolutely lose it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around and it's the same scenario. The black and whites, the 50 deputies, all uniformed, there to support him. And it almost dropped me to my knees. And so I put my sunglasses back on and I kind of backed up and I didn't want anybody to know I was crying. And I can remember it. I said, what am I doing? God, somebody's kid is standing here fighting for his life and I know how to do this. And I'm so worried about me. I'm so worried about grief and what my journey looks like. And my story's done. And it literally it changed. That day changed my life. So I called my attorney the next day and I said, Alex, I know this sounds so crazy. I want to start a nonprofit called Blue Cancer Connect, and I'm going to help officers with cancer. And he knew my husband. He said, Vicki, I think that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. I'm like, really?
I agree.
Yeah, I told him to file the papers, and I said, I want to launch it March 28th of next year on Mitch's birthday. So I took that time, literally sitting at this desk, and I got on Google, and I Googled anything cancer and law enforcement I could find, and I couldn't really
Yeah.
find anything.
Correct.
And the ones I found, COVID had shut them down. So now
Oh.
I'm just Googling cancer in California, cancer in Florida. What does cancer look like? What do law enforcement officers get? And then I got on an airplane and I started going to these cancer events, like big events. And
Yeah.
I would pay my fee and walk in, and I thought these people are going to think I'm crazy. And I would tell them my story. I'm a widow of an officer. I want to help officers with cancer. We don't have resources. How do we get into your hospital? Or how do we you're the best doctor in the world. How do we get an appointment with you? And crazy enough, everybody talked to me. They would hand me their card. They would say, call me if you need anything. And I just kept doing this. And I know people probably thought I was absolutely crazy. I called everyone I could think of. I mean, it didn't matter what it was. And then you find out, like, how do other people build their nonprofit? And I would go on their website and I'm like, oh my God, they're doing A, B, and C. I need to do that. So then I'd Google that. And I did this until March. I'd probably still do it. And I went to City of Hope, Arizona, had just opened. And we launched this from there. No one knew I was doing this. My family knew, that was it. I put a video out on my husband's birthday and made the announcement that I had now committed my life to law enforcement officers and cancer. We were going to change the face of this. We were going to do better for them. And I thought, wow, here I go. Here I go.
I'm happy you did. Can you talk about, so Blue Cancer Connect, it's, yes, donations, but also you're educating, you're educating departments, you're educating first responders. Last time we talked, you were helping with court cases, attorneys, explaining, benefits. We don't have to get into specifics, but, there's deputies that have been diagnosed with cancer and they're not tenured or whatever, so they're not getting their benefits and they're getting fired, and you're like, that they didn't even know. Like there's a wide berth, so it's an educational platform. I don't know. Don't let me speak for you. I'm sorry, Vicki, but you're doing so many things. Can you just kind of maybe touch on them, and then we'll kind of dive into the different aspects?
Yeah. So what happened was early on is our phone started ringing, and I just kept thinking Southern California, LAPD, LASD. And now we're getting these phone calls from the East Coast and out of state. And, hey, I found you online. I'm an officer with cancer. I'd say, well, what are your resources? Well, we don't have any. Well, do you have a program at your department? No. Do you have a cancer like hospital that you guys use? No. And this kept happening.
Yeah.
And so finally one day somebody called me and I said, I'm just curious. I'm not saying, I'm sorry you called, but why did you call us? And it was a female, and she said, because there's no resources anywhere.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, are you kidding me? So, I finished my conversation with her, and I'm online and I'm like, there's no resources. So I start pulling up agencies everywhere. I'm looking, there's nothing. I'm looking. And I called a few of them, like there would be a wellness number. I'd be like, hey, I'm a widow of an LASD detective. I'm just curious, do you have a cancer program or like a pamphlet where they can at least call a hospital or a doctor? No.
Oh.
No. And I thought, oh my God, these people aren't kidding. Now by this time, we'll say I'm fall of 23, and we think we'd hit 14 states of officers calling. And I remember sitting here at this desk and I said, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with this? So I thought I'm either all in, which means the commitment of my life,
right,
or I pull the plug, because it's not fair to law enforcement if I'm not going to do this nationwide. And it wasn't even a question. So I remember sitting here going, I'm all in. I don't know what this looks like. I know I'm supposed to be doing this, and I know they need help. And I've never looked back.
It's amazing.
Vicki, I can tell you, we talked maybe 6 or 7, because your son was getting married, has been married, was getting married, so I was like, we'll table that. But after talking to you, I either that night or the next day, I can't remember exactly, but I went and looked at my policy going, yeah, what are we had talked about it. I was like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
It just that knowledge and that tidbit. Also just want to touch on, because I love the way you said this. You're like, I don't take a dime because my husband made sure that I was okay and I don't need it. I think that's very important, because a lot of people get hinky about charities, but you're like, no, I don't need it because my husband took care of me.
That's
well,
amazing.
I think it's important. One, with what we do.
Yeah.
You're asking law enforcement officers to trust you.
That's hard.
Like this is life and death. Number one, you're saying, hey, trust me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you great, good information. I'm going to steer you down a great path. But, because I have an accounting background and just, I always dealt with money and big money, but I'm like, you have to be transparent. You have to be, and I didn't really know this space. I didn't know the wellness space. I do now, but you hear like, oh, this nonprofit went under, or, oh, did you hear the CEO did this? Or, oh, did you hear? And I thought, God, how can you ask officers to trust you if like you're as shady as they come, or you are? So I'm transparent anyhow, but I always talk about what we do. And I can tell you right now, we can be a 7-figure organization and it's not enough money to help our officers. A cancer diagnosis absolutely destroys your family.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one of the aspects that I am supportive or excited about with what you're doing. It's not just like, hey, we need to raise all this money so that we can help pay medical.